Hey there, guys. I'm meteorologist Ryan Shoptaw with another tropical update. It is Sunday, September 25th, 2022. Here's the latest update on Tropical Storm Ian, the latest storm in the Caribbean Sea south of Jamaica and south of Cuba on that northwestern side. So that's Ian. We'll get to him in just a bit. Tropical wave in the Atlantic Basin, low chance of development, post-tropical Hermine and Gaston. Tropical storm now expected to move towards the United States. In fact, it's going to move towards the other side of the Atlantic Basin. Here's the latest on Ian. Sustained winds are at 50 miles per hour, a moderate tropical storm moving west-northwest at 12. Pressure is at 1,001 millibar, and here is the latest on it. You can see a lot of thunderstorms are developing around that northern and southern and western side. A lot of convection taking advantage of the very warm to hot water in this part of the world. South of the Cayman Islands, southwest of Jamaica, and east of Central America. Waters in this part of the world are above 85 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, tropical storms, hurricanes, they need warm water to survive, but not only that, thrive and strengthen into a full-blown hurricane. Matter of fact, the forecast calls for that. You can see the Cayman Islands, the western half of Cuba is underneath hurricane and tropical storm watches through Tuesday, basically, as it is expected to strengthen to near Category 2 status by Monday afternoon and Monday night, if not sooner than that. Potentially making its first landfall in Cuba as it reemerges over water, interacting with more deep, hot, warm ocean water, where it's going to expect to strengthen to near a major hurricane. Right now, as of Sunday morning, calling for a Category 4 in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Now, look at this. The cone of uncertainty, it's large. It encompasses anywhere from Fort Myers to Tampa Bay to the Panhandle of Florida. I mention this because a lot of the forecast guidance is kind of disagreeing on where exactly this placement of the storm is going to be. So it could end up anywhere in this region between Tampa Bay and Destin in the Panhandle of Florida, potentially as a Category 3 hurricane as it makes landfall sometime Thursday into Friday night and even as slow as Saturday morning. Temperature of the water, very hot to warm, 85 degrees indicated by this contour. These maroon colors and around the loop current in the southern Gulf of Mexico are indicative of temperatures near 90 degrees. So this water is going to act as fuel to intensify and amplify Ian as it continues to move over this part of the northwestern Caribbean Sea in the southern Gulf of Mexico. Now take a look at this wind shear. Remember, wind shear usually tears apart tropical storms and hurricanes. So the more colors you see on this particular graphic, the less it'll strengthen. And you'll see there's not much color. This storm, as it moves towards Cuba, is not going to battle much. It has so much warm water and not a ton of wind shear, which is going to allow it to strengthen. The higher the wind shear, the higher the winds are going fast up in the atmosphere, the more likely it is to tear it apart. But the higher the wind shear, the more difficult it is for a hurricane to form. But there's not going to be a ton of wind shear. There will be some wind shear farther into Tuesday and Wednesday, but in the northern Gulf. In the meantime, it's a very calm environment, and it's going to be very quiet, and the warm water is going to act as fuel as it rapidly intensifies in the next 72 hours. Take a look. Makes landfall sometime between Tuesday morning and Monday night in the western coast of Cuba. And this is the wind field, so I would say about Tuesday morning in the Florida Keys and near Fort Myers and Tampa Bay. That's when winds are going to get a little breezy to windy. And then Tuesday night, Wednesday morning roll around, the wind field starts to expand as the storm expands as well and the hurricane strengthens. And near Tampa Bay, Wednesday evening, we're talking about winds up to 40, 50, if not 60 miles an hour, and then stronger winds off the coast. As that storm makes landfall, potentially as a Cat 1 to Cat 2, if not a major hurricane, that's when the wind field is going to continue to move onshore, and these winds could easily exceed 74 miles per hour around that storm center, around that eye wall. In addition to that, it's going to churn the water, so you'll see the wave action Tuesday night, Wednesday morning as it moves into the eastern Gulf. These red contours are indicating wave heights above 25 to 35 feet, but that's way offshore. You'll see around the Florida coast, wave heights between Tuesday and Wednesday, 5 to 15 feet, and that's the wave height. And you'll see by Thursday and Friday, as it nears the coast, potentially up to 15 to 20 feet as it makes landfall sometime by the end of the work week. Now, we talked about the forecast cone of uncertainty. Here's the GFS American model. After it moves past Cuba, taking advantage of the warm water of the Gulf of Mexico, the deep warm water, and this is the GFS model. I do want to mention it has more of a northerly track. It's going to interact with the jet stream out north and have it pull it farther north on this particular forecast model run. That's Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. That's near the Panhandle of Florida. But that's just one model run, one scenario that could play out. Here's the European model, very similar through Cuba. But look at this, Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, it has its eyes set on Tampa Bay near Fort Myers, if not farther north of Tampa Bay, potentially as, again, a major hurricane. So you can see the discrepancy and the difference in variation between model runs. One has it farther north, one has it farther east on the western side of the Florida Peninsula, and then heavy rain moving towards Jacksonville Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and into next weekend. How much rain? Well, of course, it's going to vary vastly depending on the exact track, because the western side of circulation typically drier for a hurricane. The eastern side is the wet and dirty side, where you get a lot of the storm surge moving in from the Gulf of Mexico, in addition to the heavy flooding rain and flash flooding that could happen on that south and eastern side of circulation. So Wednesday night, this is just a forecast. Thursday and Friday and Saturday, depending on where exactly it makes landfall on that direct eastern side, we're looking at forecast rain totals up to 18 inches, if not potentially up to 2 feet in 3 to 4 days' time. Between Wednesday and Saturday is the timing we're pinpointing on the rain coverage increasing for the Florida Peninsula and on the eastern Gulf of Mexico. But again, I just want to highlight one more time, depending on where it moves through, if it's farther north, that's where the swath of rain will be heaviest. If it's farther into Tampa, like this forecast model is suggesting, that swath of rain will be heaviest farther east and farther south. So we'll have to watch very closely on the exact track. But once again, the forecast cone of uncertainty, it's pretty large. It's encompassing the Florida Panhandle and all the way down to Fort Myers and Tampa Bay. Here's another forecast look at the rainfall, 5 to 7 inches on average for pretty much the entire state, 8 to 10 to 1 foot of rainfall in the next 7 days, and that's through next Saturday and Sunday. But again, isolated areas could easily see up to 1 to 2 feet, depending on where these tropical feeder bands set up in that part of the Gulf and move through the Sunshine State. Any questions? Meteorologist Ryan Shoptaw on my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on our social media as well, Kens5 on all social media platforms. If you have any questions, send them my way.